And we're talking about Antiochus III, and the time is 220 BC. Antiochus wanted a greater degree of Hellenization throughout the empire. He wanted more Greek education, more Greek unification. He wanted the empire more unified, and therefore he started this process of Hellenization. But I'm under the impression that he urged people to become more Hellenistic and more adaptive of Greek civilization. But he didn't apply any force. He was rather gentle in his approach to it. He also still had that ambition. I'm going to conquer Egypt. And he's building up his armed forces for that. Antiochus III did not reach his objectives. He died and was succeeded by Antiochus IV. Antiochus IV has a different approach to the problems of the empire, not subtle. He was more aggressive. And so Antiochus IV built an even greater armed force. And then he started a process of Hellenization, which he wanted to proceed rapidly. Now, a Greek city was a very formal organization. As we know from antiquity and ancient history, Greek and Roman cities and Babylonian cities, they were planned and things were in their proper place. And in the city, there were many institutions. There was a thing which they called the Acropolis. That's where the main temple of the gods were. Then there were other temples to other gods. The patron goddess of Athens was Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Her temple was the Parthenon on the Acropolis. So there were many institutions. For example, the games, the Olympic Games, the athletic games are very important to Greek cities. But the athletic games were not just athletic games. They were preceded by religious ceremonies, by the lighting of fires to the gods, by invocations. I mean, there was ceremony attached to every event in the Greek city. Even that institution, which became the most famous in Alexandria, the Museum of Alexandria, it started out as a little temple to the muses, the goddesses of the fine arts. Museion is what it meant, the temple of the muses. It was a cultural center of all the arts of Alexandria, and later on the center of scientists and so on. That's why it grew. And of course the Museion, which was a temple to the muses, became what we call the museum, namely the repository of art and architecture and literature and so on. Now, under Antiochus IV, he insisted that all of the activities of the peoples in the empire should conform to the Greek form, and that included religious worship. Now, if you read and understand Phoenician civilization and Phoenician religion, you'll notice that Phoenician religion and Greek religion are identical. The difference between them is that Phoenicians speak their language, Greeks speak their language, but religiously, theologically, philosophically, there's no difference between them. Phoenicians could become conforming to Greek religion. All it meant was accepting the fact and acknowledging the fact that Zeus is the equivalent of Baal. Baal is the Phoenician name of the god of thunder and lightning. Zeus is the Greek. The same applies to Babylonian, to most of the pagan civilization and religion, because you know, if you know the names of the Greek gods and the names of the Roman gods, they're the same, except for the language. Zeus is Jupiter, Hera is Juno, and so on. There's no difference between them in terms of their function and their effect on humanity. Where did the problem arise? When you come to the Jews. The Jews couldn't conform. They couldn't accept it. There's one thing that they could not do. As Antiochus and his agents began to enforce this and compel the Jews, then you have a split within the Jewish community itself. There was a group of Jews, and I suppose their ideology went according to the following lines. The Greeks are the wave of the future. They are the advanced civilization. Why should we resist it? Why can't we conform? Why can't we compromise? And this went so far that priests in the temple in Jerusalem decided that they could compromise with Greek religion and go along with it even to the extent of us setting up what never existed in the temple in Jerusalem, and that is a statue. A statue to the god Zeus. Of course, the sculpture was made so that the face was the face of Antiochus IV, but that's not important. It's just incidental. The point is, there was a compromise, a syncretism that is joining the religions together and creating what many Jews felt was a paganization of Judaism. That is what started a rebellion among the Jews. When they realized, and what they said was the contamination of the temple in Jerusalem, a rebellion broke out. And this we call the Maccabean rebellion.